Bezrat Hashem, Mincha for this week is going to be 7:40. 7:40 Mincha for the whole week. We have in the Halacha, it tells us that a person who is listening to the bracha of Hamotzi from the Botzea, there's one person that says the bracha of Hamotzi, and everybody else is listening. So the person who's saying the bracha has to taste first before anybody else is allowed to taste. So that would be a ramification if they all have a slice of bread in front of them, and he has the bread of the Hamotzi, he says the bracha, he tastes, and then everybody else is able to eat after he already tasted from the bread. The same thing is true for Kiddush. If a person says Kiddush, and he says Borei Peri HaGefen, either in the morning or at night where there's also Mekadesh Shabbat, they're not allowed to taste before the person who said the bracha tastes. Even if they have cups before them with wine, they have a little bit of wine, it's important to know the mevarech has to be, because we're all dependent on his cup. His cup is the main cup, and therefore we have to wait for him. However, when it comes to a bracha of Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz, where they themselves have just as much as the mevarech. I'll give you an example. On Shabbat, we know that every person has an obligation to do lechem mishneh, to have two breads on Shabbat. So in the yeshivot, it's very common that you have a lot of tables, a lot of yeshiva guys, a lot of people. So if the only person, you have to go ahead and you have to wait until you get bread from the mevarech himself, he goes ahead and he says a bracha on his two loaves, so it's going to take a lot of time until everybody goes ahead and gets from that bread. So what you do is you take on every small table, everybody takes their own two breads. They hear the bracha from the mevarech. It could be the rabbi, it could be whoever it is. They hear the bracha from him, but they don't have to wait for him in order to be able to eat from themselves, because they have their own two, so therefore they're not really dependent on him. They're using the bracha, but they are their own entity, and therefore they could distribute at it as is. However, if not, let's say they didn't put lechem mishneh, they just have one bread, one roll per each, and they didn't put them together, then they have to wait for the bread of the mevarech himself, because they're dependent on him as well. So therefore the halacha is very clear that in that circumstance it's better to just put together two lechem mishneh, or to get a cup of wine and fill it up to the top, and that way you could be yotzeh yedei chova lechatechila in such a fashion. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.